Hey guys, I'm Kristina Novak, back with Movie Mondays, and today we're going to be talking about The Bride. The Bride has 59% on Rotten Tomatoes with critics and 74% with audience, and on IMDb, it's a 6.1 out of 10, and Letterboxd a 3 out of 5. It is a horror, comedy, sci-fi movie with a runtime of 2 hours and 7 minutes, and it was released March 6th. And The Bride is a Frankenstein story adaptation focusing on Frankenstein traveling to 1930s Chicago to meet with mad scientist Dr. Euphonius to create himself a companion. It's directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal. This film features cast members Jessie Buckley, Christian Bale, Jake Gyllenhaal, Annette Bening, Penelope Cruz, and many more well-known names. I love that this adaptation especially focuses on the bride more than Frankenstein, unlike the 1935 Bride of Frankenstein film, but overall, although it's an adaptation, I feel like it's a very loose adaptation, and it was so much fun watching the different ways they stylized the story, and I really did like the beginning of the story. Originally, when I talked about How to Make a Killing last week, I hated that it started off with like a narrator and telling you this is how the story starts off. And this film does do a similar idea. It starts off with the author of Frankenstein, Mary Shelley, and it introduces the story stating that Frankenstein wasn't the end of her story and that she has more to write, more to tell with the bride, which it then switches to the initial main story and shows Ida, the original version before she got switched to the bride. I don't really know how to phrase that, but I won't go into too much depth and details on that because I do really recommend you guys to watch this movie. It was just really fun, and I normally don't like that whole narration thing, but to build off further with that, I just feel like it was very unique. It wasn't I don't know how to say it. It wasn't basic. It started off black and white with Mary Shelley. It told you who she was, but it was this very creepy, almost sinister start to the story, saying it gives the hint that something's gonna go wrong, something's gonna go seriously wrong. And I never read the original book of Frankenstein, and I never really watched all the adaptions, but I am in a film class currently, and I watched The Bride of Frankenstein ironically 2 weeks ago, so it was really good timing. But I just really like how they did this. I really like that it started and continued with Mary Shelley. She kind of was she had a possession over the bride throughout the story, and it was just really unique and fun. It would randomly snap from the bride as Ida to then Mary Shelley taking over Ida, and you could see the different thought processes between the two characters, and it was a really fun personality switch. And this film wastes absolutely no time engulfing you in. It's a really strange, bizarre world, but it fully commits to the style, and it left me absolutely obsessed. Me and my friend went, and almost every other scene we were looking at each other with jaw dropped or saying this is so cool, or this is so fun, and walking out of that theater we were holy crap. And I can't believe it doesn't really have that many good reviews, averaging a 59% critics rating. I was man. And I believe that this is Maggie Gyllenhaal's first directed movie, but I could be totally wrong. But I thought she did an excellent job. The script was good, the camera shots and everything. The camera work was really expressive and creative in its framing, and I really liked the close-up shots on people's facial reactions. And also, there was a bunch of random thematic dreamlike sequences, which were such a cool watch, and it gave you almost this hypnotic sense, and it really pulled the viewer in and felt like you were there. It was very quirky, and also a lot of people were oh, it's a musical, there's dance numbers, this is Joker, I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, but Joker Folie à 2.0, definitely butcher that. But I didn't really see it as a 2.0 movie at all, and also it wasn't really a musical. There was maybe one 30-second little humming song number, but it wasn't anything musical in your face. But there was about 3 dance numbers, but I felt it was really it fit. It was during those quote unquote possession scenes, and it felt you were watching it through Frankenstein's eyes and how he wanted to envision what was going on. So I thought it was really cool. Like, I thought the dance numbers were awesome. It was very quirky. It was fun to watch. It was entertaining. And this movie just overall is very bold. It's daring. It's filled with rage. And it's both visually and just overall stunning. And Jessie Buckley and Christian Bale did an absolutely phenomenal job. And with Christian Bale, like, at first, you're like, looks very familiar. And makeup team did an amazing job with, like, the staples in his head and everything, and the FX work. But Jessie Buckley especially is definitely the star of this movie. I mean, it's The Bride, so kind of has to be. But she's really on a roll with movies this year. She starred in Hamnet and did an incredible job, emotional job in that movie. And now in The Bride, she was on fire. It, like, you could feel through her acting, through her character. It was really incredible. And another thing with this movie, I thought it was, like, they did a really good job dealing with, like, heavier themes. There was a few scenes of sexual violence throughout the movie with The Bride. And I think Maggie Gyllenhaal did really great not holding back with these scenes. It was very hard to watch, but also important. And in an interview, she stated that she wanted the sexual violence to feel horrible, brutal, massive, and really difficult to watch. If you gloss over it, it doesn't feel like the brutality it is. And I just thought that she did a really incredible job with it. It was hard to watch, but I absolutely think it fit with the movie and current things going on. And sexual violence aside, even with, like, normal violence in this film, it was incredibly well done. It was emotional, especially with this one scene. It was in the ballroom that Frankenstein and the bride crashed into, and then police came in, and they were trying to de-escalate the situation. The bride was just speaking, and then we see the camera pan over to a cop that just fired, and the facial expression on his face when the bride shot him, like, I don't know, it just was a really cool camera shot. Really made you feel as the viewer, and it was raw, it was uncomfortable. And also with this film, it was not just gore and bloody, but it was really intense and stylized, and it was just such a cool watch. I thought it was awesome, and I don't think that it should have really had such low, what do we got, 59% critics, 74% audience. I think that it deserves so much more, and it's not like your usual type of film. Like, it gave me a lot of A24 vibes, especially with cutting back to Mary Shelley with the, like, black and white sequences. And we also see Mary Shelley, like, in the bride's dreams. Like, she falls asleep and Mary's just there. And you see certain scenes of, like, the bride's feeling of, like, suffocation, having to, like, control her different personalities, like, with Mary Shelley and everything. And it was just really cool. And I think that there is going to be a Bride 2, possibly. Because the way that the movie ended was, like, it left room for more. We see that the bride and Frankenstein are still alive, but we don't know anything more. It just kind of cuts there. And speaking of the movie ending, I absolutely loved the end credits song, playing the Monster Mash. It's very basic, but like, the movie ending and that cutting in, it was cute. But I do think this movie should have been, like, a Halloween release, because it was very creepy. It was that vibe, absolutely. And although it did, like, have comedic aspects, it was definitely more heavy on the horror, like, not horror, but I guess more thriller side of the table. But overall, it was just a really good movie, and my rating was a 4.5 out of 5, which is a complete jump from last week's How to Make a Killing. But yeah, it was such a cool watch. I do absolutely recommend it. And honestly, I wish Talon was here, because that would have been such a, like, How to Make a Killing was hard to talk about because it was nothing special. But this movie was absolutely special, and that would have been so fun to ping pong our opinions and everything off of it. And I'm honestly curious if he is going to rate it well, but unfortunately, he had work today. Tisk tisk. But yeah, that's honestly, like, all my notes. It was such a cool movie, and it was very impressive. It was really out there. I loved it. I would watch it again. It definitely felt like it was dragging on at certain moments, but then it would pick up the pace again. It did not feel like a 2-hour movie, though. I will say that. But overall, It's a very short Movie Mondays episode, kind of hard to talk alone, but hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We'll be back next week with Project Hail Mary. See ya.